Listen and practice.
Hi, I'm Beth, and this is my day. I get up at 6:30 a.m. every day. I have breakfast at 7 a.m. and then at 7:30 every morning I go to the gym. I leave the gym at 8:30 a.m. and I go to work. I start work at 9:30 a.m. every day. I work in an office in the city. I leave work at 5:30 p.m. and I go shopping. In the evening, I cook dinner. After dinner, I listen to music or I watch TV. I go to bed at 10 or 10:30 p.m. every day.
Listen and practice.
You find them on the ground, in trees, and even in special houses built just for them. Their mother sits on them for weeks, but she does not hurt them. She just keeps them warm. Their parents have wings, and they will too. Their most common colors are white and brown. They can be big, small, or in between. Be careful. Some are very soft and can break easily. What are they? Eggs, of course. All around the world, people eat eggs, but chicken eggs are the most popular. Boiled or fried, they taste really good. The Chinese are world leaders in chicken egg production, producing nearly 160 billion eggs a year. Here's a challenge. One chicken can lay about 250 eggs in 1 year. That's a lot of eggs. Can you figure out how many chickens it will take to lay 160 billion eggs?
Listen and practice.
My mom always gives money to charities. We get more and more calls to our home. Letters are sent to Mom, all of them with good reasons to ask for donations. But Mom does not have enough money to meet all her urges to give. She has to consider her choices carefully. One day, Mom received a letter with the title, Gift of Hope. The letter said, "It's not money, it's hope. It's the gift of hope for families in poor countries." Mom continued reading the letter. With $19, you can give 3 hens to a family. The hens will lay eggs, which the family can then sell. With this money, the family can pay for their basic needs. Mom smiled as she read. She made a plan to save money and send to this charity regularly.
Listen and practice.
Well, we all have very different things. I have my breakfast at 7 o'clock and I don't eat very much. I have some orange juice and a piece of bread with jam. My grandparents make lots of cooked food for breakfast, but I don't have any of that. My grandpa has a cup of coffee, an egg, mushrooms, and some beans. My grandma just has an egg and beans. She has coffee with her meal and some water too. She always feels thirsty in the morning. Mum leaves the house very early for work in the morning. She doesn't have any breakfast at home. There are some cafes near her office, so she gets a cup of coffee at one of those. She has some biscuits with the coffee too, I think. Dad's very healthy. He gets up early and goes running, then he comes home and has breakfast. He has fruit and toast. He doesn't have any butter or jam on the toast, just toast, brown toast. He has a large glass of water.
Listen and practice.
Fog is a cloud that is close to the ground. But do you know what fog can do to us? One day, my dad rented a small boat. He left shore. After sailing for a few hours, he suddenly ran into fog. It was like being in a cloud on the water. He could not see a thing. There was nothing he could do. He sat in the boat and waited for the fog to disappear. It got dark and cold. Then he heard a loud horn. It was getting closer. Was it a big ship? Would the captain see him? He ran into a small island. The island had a foghorn on it. He stayed on the island until morning, and then he sailed home. Isn't fog a powerful thing?
Listen and practice.
Jose is a teenage boy. He used to do well in school. But lately, things changed. He started skipping class. Soon, his parents got a phone call from the school. Where was Jose? With a little investigating, they found out that their son was going to an internet cafe to play computer games. They were very upset. The next weekend, they took him to visit his grandfather. His grandfather is a farmer. He grows vegetables, cotton, corn, and many other crops. He walked with his grandson in the fields, looking at the crops. Grandpa said to Jose, "I plant every crop, each in its own season. Otherwise, I would have nothing to harvest. Everything has its time." He stopped and looked at his grandson. "For you, it's the same," he said. "I don't want you to become a man who missed the season for planting." Jose learned a good lesson from his grandfather.
Listen and practice.
Feel your head. Under the hard bone is your brain. Your brain makes it possible for you to do nearly everything. Sit down, stand up, hear a bird sing, watch a movie, taste ice cream. You name it. Your brain makes it possible. And what's more, you don't have to think about it at all. Your brain is soft and gray and is made mostly of water. It is filled with electricity. That's how it works. Electricity moves from your brain throughout your whole body. Your brain has nearly 100 billion little electric receivers. That's about the same as the number of stars in our galaxy. There is enough electricity in your brain to turn on a small light bulb. We don't understand everything about the brain, but one thing is certain: it is very powerful. Each day, a person has more than 70,000 thoughts. And size doesn't really matter. For example, Einstein's brain was about 20% smaller than most human brains, and he was a really smart guy.
Listen and practice.
Mr. and Mrs. Jones bought a farm. "I have always wanted to live on a farm," said Mr. Jones. "Me too," said Mrs. Jones. "But this isn't a farm yet. We need animals to make it a farm." "I would like a cat." "Let's just get a cat for now. That's enough animals for me." So Mr. and Mrs. Jones got a kitten and named it Callie. "Now we have a real farm," said Mr. Jones. "No, we need a garden to make this a real farm," said Mrs. Jones. "Let's get a geranium for the windowsill," said Mr. Jones. "That will be enough of a garden for me." So Mr. and Mrs. Jones bought a geranium and put it on the windowsill. "Now we have a farm," said Mr. Jones. "We have an animal and a plant. This is just the right farm for us." And so it was.
Listen and practice.
Once, when my father was 8 years old, he was beaten by my grandfather. At that time, there was a famine in our country. Farmers were not able to harvest anything. Everyone was hungry. All the adults in the family went to work in the fields, hoping that the next year they would bring a good harvest. My grandma cooked a few sweet potatoes. That's all she had for the whole family. She asked her oldest son, my father, to bring food to the adults in the field. On the way, my father couldn't resist the hunger he felt inside his stomach. He ate all the sweet potatoes before reaching the field. He got there empty-handed. My grandfather beat my father hard, for he had eaten all the food for the whole family. Since then, my father never let his parents down again. He grew up to be a responsible person, and he never beat his children.
Listen and practice.
Jerry was different from the other kids. He was 10 years old, but less than 1 meter tall. The boys would not play with him. The girls made fun of him. Every day he cried before going to school. He did not want to face another day at school. "It's just the way you are," his mom said. "You were born this way. Someday you might grow big and tall, but for now you are short." One day before school, while Jerry was crying, he saw a really tall man. He was at least 2.25 meters tall. The tall man asked, "What is the problem?" The boy explained what was wrong. The tall man smiled. "When I was a boy, they teased me too. I was too tall. But you know what? Today I am a pro basketball star. Now everyone wants to be my friend." Jerry learned something new that day. It's no fun being different, but you never know how things will turn out.
Listen and practice.
Turning old things into new things is called recycling. One thing that can be recycled is cans. Cans are made of aluminum. Aluminum is a metal. It is light and strong. It can be used over and over again. This saves energy and money. We buy many things in cans. Soup and pop come in cans. Tuna and tomatoes come in cans too. Old cans should not be thrown away. Old cans need to be taken to a recycling center. A recycling center will make new cans out of your old cans. Recycling cans is easy and fast. First, the old cans are cut into pieces. Then they are melted. Next, they are flattened into sheets. Finally, they are made into new cans. What other old things can be recycled?
Listen and practice.
It was a very hot summer day. Emma was hot, but Grandma was hotter. Grandma sat on the cool porch, waving her fan, but she was no cooler. Emma ran to the kitchen and climbed up to the sink. She turned on the faucet. The water was cold. Emma filled a big glass with water. She climbed down and got ice from the freezer. Plop, plop, the ice dropped into the glass. Now the water was even colder. Emma took the glass to Grandma, but the cat ran between her legs. Down fell Emma. Away ran the cat. Up flew the glass. And the water landed all over Grandma. Emma cried. She had wanted to help, but now Grandma was all wet. Grandma smiled. "Well, that certainly cooled me down. Don't worry, Emma. The sun will dry me."
Listen and practice.
Mr. Kelly has been teaching science for nearly 25 years. Every day, he tries to inspire his students. That's why there is never a boring moment in his science class. Today, he says, we will make popcorn. On his desk is a small pot, a small stove, and a bowl of raw popcorn. He lights the stove and then puts the popcorn in the pot. The pot gets hot fast. Soon, everyone can hear the sound of corn popping. A strong smell of popcorn comes out of the pot. 5 minutes later, everyone is eating popcorn. "Why does it pop?" asks Mr. Kelly. No one knows the answer. In each little grain of corn, there is a small drop of water. The heat turns the water to steam. The steam is powerful. It breaks the shell and makes the popcorn pop. Regular corn will not pop. Why? There are no drops of water in the kernels. So, when the kernels are heated, there is no steam to burst out. Everyone loves the tasty popcorn. Now, we all know why popcorn pops. The mystery is solved.
Listen and practice.
Sense of smell.
This sense can help us remember special experiences that happened in the past. For example, our grandmother's perfume or freshly cut grass can remind us of our childhood. Of all the senses, this one has the strongest connection to humans' past memories. This sense also helps newborn babies recognize people. When they are just a few days old, babies can recognize their mothers using this sense.
Listen and practice.
Hearing.
We can use this sense even from a great distance. With this sense, we can figure out what's happening in the world around us, even if we can't see it at all. It can help us sense danger. For example, a car coming behind us when we are walking or riding a bicycle down the street. Animals use this sense much better than we do. In fact, in dolphins, this sense is 14 times stronger than in humans.
Listen and practice.
This sense can help keep our bodies in balance. Sometimes we want to eat certain things because our bodies need certain vitamins or minerals in the food. For example, sugar can temporarily give our bodies extra energy, so when we're tired, we often want to eat sweet foods that have sugar in them. And when we exercise and sweat, our bodies lose salt. This is why we often want to eat salty foods after doing sports or exercise. Our bodies use this sense to tell us what they need.
Listen and practice.
My grandma was getting older. She had a hard time walking. One day, her friend suggested that she try Tai Chi. Tai Chi? Asked my grandmother. Is that a type of tea? Her friend laughed and explained, it is a type of exercise that is very slow and easy on the body. To help my grandma, our whole family decided to try it. We went with my grandmother to a class. It looked easy until I tried it. Even my older brother fell a few times trying to do the movements, and he is a soccer player. But my grandma liked Tai Chi. She continued going to the classes twice a week. A year later, Grandma was almost 80 years old, and she had no trouble walking anymore. She proved that it is never too late to get in shape.
Listen and practice.
Last summer, I worked on my uncle's farm. I have never worked so hard in my life. Every day, I got up at 5 a.m. to feed the animals. The hardest work of all was called haying. That means gathering all the hay in the fields. Hay is like tall grass. The animals eat it. You need a huge amount to feed all the animals on the farm. A big machine cuts the hay and wraps it into big squares. The squares weigh at least 30 kilograms. You have to pick them up and throw them onto a big wagon. That summer, I lifted thousands of them. When I got home at the end of the summer, none of my clothes fit me. I had grown such big muscles. That summer, I learned that hard work really pays off. Now I can't wait until next year.
Listen and practice.
There was once a young man who always saw the bad side of things. One day, he and his friend went on a trip to an island. The wind blew their boat away. They called for help, but it would be at least a couple of hours before anyone would find them. As they waited, the young man complained about the heat and the bad luck they were having. When he reached for their water bottle, he said, "Ah, no, the water bottle is half empty." Then his friend looked at the bottle and said, "But it is half full too." The young man looked at his friend very seriously. A smile slowly appeared on his face, and they both laughed. He thought, being negative doesn't help. Now the man is much older and has a happy family. He became a person who sees the glass half full, not half empty.
Listen and practice.
Today, after school, Sarah and her dad are going to the beach. Sarah loves splashing in the waves and digging for sand crabs. Afterwards, they will walk to the ice cream shop. Sarah likes the bubble gum flavor ice cream there. It has real gumballs in it. Today is Daddy-Daughter Day, Sarah told her friend Rachel. That's great, Rachel said. She sounded sad. What's the matter? You're just lucky, that's all. Rachel didn't have a dad. Sarah understood. Then Sarah had an idea. Would you like to spend the day with me and my dad? It's your special day, replied Rachel. But Sarah thought the idea was grand. And so the three of them spent the afternoon together. They got the bubblegum ice cream and blew bubbles all the way home. Sarah discovered that sharing her special day with her friend made it even more special.
Listen and practice.
Brian watches the small drops of water coming from the water tap. The tap leaks. It is only one small drop of water at a time. How can this hurt? Well, think about this. There are 3,500 drops of water in 1 liter. Add up all the drips coming from the leaking tap in the bathroom, and that is a lot of wasted water. When Brian's father gets home, Brian says, "I want to do something to save water in our house." Brian and his father fix the taps. This makes Brian very happy. His father says, "Now, let's see what else we can do to save more water." They learn that they can save 8 liters of water in 1 minute if they turn the tap off while they brush their teeth. If they shower for 1 minute less, they will save 40 liters of water. It all adds up. Start with the small things and see what you can do.
Listen and practice.
One day, some friends were talking. They were talking about how old they were. James said, "I am 7 years old. My brother is older. He is twice as old as me." "How old is my brother?" "That's easy," said Ellen. "You are 7. He is twice as old as you, so your brother is 7 plus 7. He is 14 years old." Then Jane said, "I am 8. I have a baby sister. She is half my age. How old is my sister?" "That's so easy," yelled James. "She is half of 8. So your sister is 4 years old." Chris was thinking hard. There was something on his mind. Then he asked, "How old is a dinosaur?" "A dinosaur?" said the puzzled children. "Yes, how old is a dinosaur?" said Chris again. The children thought really hard. "A dinosaur is old. Very old," said Ellen. "A dinosaur is millions of years old. A dinosaur is old, old, old." The children laughed. James said, "A dinosaur is older than all of us combined."
Listen and practice.
School is out for the summer. Yay! No more studying. Nothing to do but run and play. It's every kid's dream, right? Well, one boy does not think so. His name is Ellis. He wants to keep going to school all summer. "I love school," he says. "Why do we have to take these holidays?" Ellis isn't weird or anything. He just loves school. He thinks there's plenty of time for playing after school. He wonders why kids should have the whole summer off. When Ellis tells his mother that summer will be boring, she smiles and says, "I thought of 50 fun things to do in the summer. Let's see which one you choose." His mom starts reading the list. Going to the beach, reading, playing sports, games, picnics, gardening, volunteering, and wait! Ellis found one. Teaching seniors how to use computers. That summer, He would be the teacher at school.
Listen and practice.
Once there lived a happy mouse family. They had a beautiful daughter. Mr. and Mrs. Mouse would always say, "Our daughter is the best girl in all the land. We must find the most powerful person to marry her." They decided that the son would be the best person to marry their daughter. So they went on a journey to see the son. "Son," they said, "you are most powerful. You shine brightly and bring light everywhere. Will you marry our daughter?" Son replied, "I am strong and powerful, but Cloud is more powerful than me. Cloud can cover me and hide my light. He will make a good husband." So Mr. and Mrs. Mouse traveled to see Cloud and asked him to marry their daughter. But Cloud said, "I am flattered, but I am not the most powerful. Wind is more powerful. Wind can blow me away with no effort." Mr. and Mrs. Mouse were astonished, but they wanted the best husband for their daughter, so they decided to search for Wind. Soon the mouse parents found Wind. They asked him to marry their daughter. Wind, too, was surprised. He said, "I am not the most powerful. I am strong, yes, but when I come up against a wall, I'm stopped right in my tracks." Discouraged, the two mice went to visit Wall. They asked him to marry their daughter. "I would be honored," said Wall, "but you seek the most powerful of all. I am strong, but as you know, a mouse can chew through me with little effort." Mr. and Mrs. Mouse were amazed. "So we, the mice, are powerful. This is true." And so they returned home. Around the corner from their house, there lived a good and honest mouse. He had lived there all his life. Mr. and Mrs. Mouse asked him to marry their daughter. Of course, he did as they asked. The two young mice married and lived a long and happy life together.
Listen and practice.
One day, Freddie came to his father and asked, "Dad, may I borrow your car keys?" "I don't think so," answered his father. "You're not ready to drive yet." Freddie laughed. "Mom locked the car. I just need to get my baseball glove from the front seat." "I see. Here you go," said Dad. "Just don't try to drive." "Thanks," said Freddie. "I'll bring them right back." A couple of minutes later, Freddie got his glove and started walking back. Suddenly, the car started moving. Freddie raced after it, unlocked the door, and grabbed the emergency brake. The car stopped rolling. Dad came running out of the house. "What did you do?" he asked. "I must have hit something while I was getting my glove," answered Freddie. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to drive the car." "I know," said Dad. "Accidents happen. I'm glad you acted quickly. But next time you kids want something from the car, I'll get it for you. That made me age way too fast, and I can't afford to do that."
Listen and practice.
Douglas Corrigan was a pilot from the United States. In 1938, he bought a small old plane for $150. He decided to fly from New York to Los Angeles. He looked at his map and planned the trip. But on the day of his flight, the weather was very bad. He couldn't see very well, and he went the wrong way. He turned left, not right. He flew across the Atlantic Ocean. He only had a map of the U.S. with him, and he didn't have any food or water. He finally landed 28 hours and 13 minutes later. But he wasn't in Los Angeles, of course. He was in Dublin, Ireland. The people of Dublin were very surprised to see him. Lots of journalists came to interview him, and the story of his amazing trip was in the newspapers the next day. When Douglas Corrigan finally returned to New York, his friends had a big party for him. And after that, everyone always called him Wrong Way Corrigan.
Listen and practice.
We all know what organs are. Things like the heart, lungs, and kidneys are all organs. But do you know what is the biggest organ of all? Here are some hints. It can be very dark, or it can be very light. It can be very smooth or very rough. That's right, it's skin. Our skin is an amazing thing. Imagine if scientists could invent something that could heal itself. That's exactly what skin does. Adults have more than 11 miles of blood vessels in their skin. Those blood vessels help to keep skin warm or to cool it down. In fact, on a hot summer day, a person can sweat as much as 3 gallons. The reason why there are different colors of skin is pigment. The more pigment you have in your skin, the darker it is. So take care of your skin. Remember, you are going to need it for a long time.
Listen and practice.
Have you ever noticed a little creature called the bee? What an amazing insect! Bees have little feet and big round eyes. They are yellow and black. You see them buzzing around sweet-smelling flowers everywhere. Scientists say that bees are really important. If we did not have bees, there would be no food on Earth. Bees have a short life. They live only about a month, but in that time, they fly up to 14 kilometers from their nest, searching for food. What are they looking for? Worker bees are looking for sweet nectar, which they find on flowers. Then they bring it back to the nest for the queen bee. The queen bee lays about 1,500 eggs each day. During her 3 or 4 year lifetime, one beehive can have 40,000 to 60,000 bees. Have you ever been chased by an angry bee? Well, just remember, a bee can fly about 25 kilometers an hour. Most likely, you will never be able to outrun a bee. So don't be afraid of bees. Just let them do their work. They never stop working. That's why people say, busy as a bee.
Listen and practice.
Becky and Sherry are twins. Becky loves dresses. Her sister Sherry loves sports. One day, their mother said to them, "Let's buy some new clothes for you." So they went to the store together. Their mother chose some very nice dresses for them. Becky was happy, but Sherry was not. "How can I play baseball in this?" she asked. Sherry looked at a boy who was trying on a pair of shorts. Sherry's mom saw this. "Well," she said, "would you like some shorts instead?" Sherry was very happy. "That would be great," she said. "All right, I will buy a dress for Becky and shorts for Sherry," Mom said. "Sometimes I forget that although you two look the same, it doesn't mean you are the same," laughed their mother.
Listen and practice.
We do not usually think about our feet. They are just there under our legs. Most days, we put socks and shoes on our feet. Some days, we even go barefoot. But our feet are very important. Why? Think about it. What do you walk on? You walk on your feet, of course. They carry all your weight. If you did not have feet, you would not be able to walk. What about your toes? Well, they are the most important part of your feet. Your big toes carry nearly half of your total weight. The other 8 toes carry about 1/4 of your weight. Your 2 heels carry the rest. One more thing. If you did not have toes, you would fall over when you tried to stand. Toes give you balance. So take care of your feet. Treat them well. You only get 2 to last a whole lifetime, and you will walk many thousands of kilometers on them.
Listen and practice.
Bowing is the traditional way of greeting in Northeast Asian countries like Japan and Korea. This picture, for example, shows how Japanese women bow. In Japan, when you bow, you don't look directly at the other person's eyes. In both Japan and Korea, people bow to show respect.
Listen and practice.
There are many ways to listen. We listen differently for different reasons. Sometimes you don't need to understand everything you hear. You just want the main idea or general meaning. Sometimes you only need to understand the details or specific information. Ask yourself, what am I listening for? Sometimes people don't say the exact words. You can still understand the meaning. This is called listening between the lines, or listening and making inferences.
Listen and practice.
When good friends meet in Russia, they often hug each other. This is true for both men and women. But Russia isn't the only place where friends hug. In Brazil, for example, friends also hug each other when they greet. In Brazil, a hug is called abraço. When you hug someone, You usually give the person a light kiss on the cheek, too.
Listen and practice.
Look, cried Julie. It's a baby bird. The other children looked. There, on the ground in front of them, was a tiny bird. It must have fallen out of its nest, said Richard, pointing up at a tree nearby. What should we do? Asked Flora. If we just leave it there, a cat might eat it. Let's ask Dad what to do, said Richard. Julie ran to get Dad, while the other children watched over the baby bird. Dad brought his ladder to the tree. He held the ladder while Julie climbed up and put the baby bird back in the nest. Julie was the one who found the bird, so she should be the one to put it back, said Dad. The children and their father were all happy that the baby bird was safely back home.
Listen and practice.
Sarah comes from a big family. They live in a small apartment. Sarah's dad works hard, but he doesn't make enough money to buy a house. Sarah had a dream. She dreamed that one day her family would have their own home. It seemed that this would never happen. But Sarah's friend Jenny wanted to help. Jenny heard about a program called Houses for People. Many people get together and help to build a house for a family in need. They work for free. Local businesses buy wood and materials to build the house. Anyone can help. It doesn't matter if you don't have skills or experience building houses. There is always something to do. Jenny told Sarah about the program. Her family applied. And guess what? They were accepted. Everyone waited anxiously for the work to begin. After a long winter of waiting, Sarah's family found a place to build their new home. On June the 1st, everything was ready. It was early Saturday morning. More than 30 people showed up. They brought tools and food. People worked hard all day. You could hear the sound of hammers and saws everywhere. Jenny and Sarah came to help too. They could not believe how many people had come to help. At the end of the weekend, the new house was well underway. It was a good beginning. Over the next 3 weeks, it was slowly built. Finally, the big day came. Where once only a dream stood, there was now a small new house with pretty red and orange paint.
Listen and practice.
David's mom always wants her son to be the best at everything in school. One day, she had to go on a business trip. So, she sent her son to stay with her friend. Before she left, she told her friend to remind David to study for an important test. A week later, David's mom came back, eager to see her son. But David wasn't in his room. "That's strange. I thought he was working on his homework here," said the friend. Let's see if he is downstairs. They looked everywhere. He can't be far, said her friend. He was here a minute ago. Let's search the room again. Finally, they found David hiding in the closet. David said that he was afraid to see his mom. He had not done well in his test. He was afraid that his mother would be disappointed and angry. Mom held her son tightly. I'm so sorry, David. I won't be angry as long as you did your best, she said. Please don't hide in the closet, or I'll be very disappointed.
Listen and practice.
Some cities are thousands of years old, and some cities are young. Long ago, in 1788, England decided to send all its bad criminals as far away as possible. So, they were put on ships and sent all the way around the world to an island. This island was Australia. The main city was called Sydney. Hundreds of years later, Sydney is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Millions of people live there today. It is famous for warm weather, beautiful beaches, and an opera house. It is surrounded by parks, rivers, and many beaches. Swimming is a favorite sport for people living in Sydney. Maybe one day you will visit the city by the sea, Sydney.
Listen and practice.
Emmy dropped her teddy bear in the yard. Oh, his leg is broken, cried Emmy. I think you need a doctor, Emmy told him. The teddy bear seemed scared. He stared at Emmy. Don't worry, Emmy said. I'll take you to Dr. Mom. It won't hurt a bit. Emmy told the teddy bear what would happen. First, we'll go inside. Then, we'll read stories while we wait for Dr. Mom to see us. When Dr. Mom is ready, she'll look at your leg and fix it. Emmy told him that she would hold his hand. He wasn't scared anymore. So, Emmy carried her teddy bear inside. Then she read him a story. Finally, Dr. Mom was ready to see them. She fixed the teddy bear's leg and said, He's as good as new now. Emmy gave her teddy bear a big hug. He was brave while Dr. Mom fixed his leg.
Listen and practice.
Last week, my family went to the park. My wife and daughter and I went with my parents. My brother was there too, with my nephew. It was a really nice day. I played some soccer with my daughter, Morgan, and my nephew. Morgan is on a soccer team at school. She's getting to be pretty good, better than I am. My nephew, Austin, is a good player too. He doesn't play on a team, but I think he might next year. Morgan and Austin go to the same school, and they play together a lot. They're cousins, but they're also really good friends. While we played soccer, my brother Nick helped my father cook. Nick usually doesn't like to cook much, but he likes to barbecue outdoors. He makes great hamburgers. Nick says he's too busy to cook at home. I guess Nick learned to cook from my father. His name's Frank. My father loves to cook. He cooked all the time when we were growing up. I never learned much about cooking, though. My mother and Catherine, my wife, talk together. They always talk about books. Both of them read a lot. Catherine says I should read more, but I'd rather do something more active. My mother, her name is Janice, is great with her grandchildren. She sees them all the time. In fact, my parents are going to take the kids with them on a trip next year. I'm not sure where yet. Maybe Disneyland.
Listen and practice.
Bob likes food. Meat, vegetables, pizza, and French fries are his favorites. He always says, "I have good, strong teeth. I can eat any food I want." But one day, Bob had to go to the dentist to get braces. 2 of his teeth were growing out of place. It took 3 hours to get it all done. Before he left, the dentist said, "You may have trouble eating for the next few days, but don't worry, you will be back to normal in a week." Bob looked in the mirror. He looked cool. He could barely wait to show his friends. But the next morning, Bob felt weird. His teeth felt so weak. It was like they lost their usual strength. He couldn't even chew a piece of bread. At lunch, while all his friends ate a variety of foods, Bobby could only eat yogurt and drink milk. He felt like an old man. "It's not cool at all," said Bobby to his friends. "I hate these braces," Bobby groaned. "When I get better, I am going to have a feast and eat all my favorite foods."
Listen and practice.
In school, we are learning about the environment. Yesterday, we talked about solar energy. Solar energy is when you catch the rays of the sun and use them to power homes. We also learned about wind energy. This is when big windmills catch the wind and turn it into electricity. Sure, wind and solar power are really good, but it takes a lot of money to set up a windmill or a sun collector. One day, I told my grandma about all of this. She smiled. I know that when Grandma smiles, she has a plan. When I was a girl, we had a great sun and wind-powered clothes dryer, she said. All you need is a good rope and 2 places to attach it to. Hang the clothes and let the sun and wind dry them. If you want, I can help you make a clothesline. Cool! I can't wait to tell my teacher about the new clothes dryer that we put in our house. And it all cost less than $15.
Listen and practice.
My dad is very busy with his work. He does not sleep enough. On the weekends, he juggles work, family, our school sports, and more. He feels tired all the time. Finally, he had to go to see a doctor. The doctor said to my dad, "You have been burning the candle at both ends." "What do you mean?" Dad asked. "Well, what would happen if you lit both ends of a candle at the same time?" said the doctor. "The candle would burn out very quickly," my dad answered. "Right," the doctor nodded. "That is what is happening to you. You are being burned out." He was right. Dad was too tired. The doctor told my dad to slow down. "Do less every day," he said. "There is a time for work, a time for fun, and a time to blow out the candle."
Listen and practice.
If you go to the hospital in the U.S., you might see the staff wearing green uniforms. Doctors often wear green pants and green shirts. That's because green relaxes people. It helps sick people feel better. Green is also associated with plants and nature.
Black.
Advice from color experts can sometimes influence what people wear. For example, fashion experts recommend people wear black if they want to look thinner, because dark colors make people look thinner. So, if you're trying to look thinner, solid colors might look better than stripes or checks.
Yellow.
People often associate this bright color with sunshine and happy feelings. Maybe that's why yellow is a popular color for babies' clothes. Yellow is also easy to see, so some sports teams have yellow uniforms, and many information signs are yellow.
Blue.
When you think of the police, what color clothes do you imagine? In many places, police uniforms are blue, a color that people associate with loyalty. Blue is also a good color to wear to a job interview. It can create good feelings. It can show you are a loyal worker who will work many years for the company.
Red is a powerful color and can be a symbol of strength. Wear something red when you feel good about yourself or want to attract attention. In many Asian countries, the color red brings luck, and in China, brides wear red wedding dresses.
White.
Brides in North America and Europe traditionally wear white dresses to symbolize purity. However, in some Asian countries, white is associated with death. In China, white gifts are brought to funerals when someone dies. In Nepal, the oldest son traditionally wears white clothing for 1 year after the death of a parent.
Listen and practice.
Let's talk about 2 things that I think are very important when we talk about healthy eating: what we eat and when we eat. So, looking first at what we eat, we must remember that we all need a balanced diet, and that means eating the right amounts of the different food groups. I'll give you some examples. We need more grain food, which is food made from wheat, rice, oats, and corn. because it gives our bodies energy and helps them grow. But our bodies don't need much fat, so we need to eat less sweets and not use too much butter or margarine on our bread. When we eat is also important. Skipping breakfast or lunch is never a good idea. We need to eat in the morning and in the early afternoon so that we have the energy to study, do our homework, or play sports during the day. At night we can eat less because we don't need much energy for sleeping.
Listen and practice.
I know it's time for decisions, but I'm not very good at making decisions. I always worry that I might not make the right choice. I might go to college next year, but I'm not sure. I might wait a year and travel around Asia for a while. After college, I might become a teacher. I might not make much, but I like working with kids, and money isn't everything. Someone told me there are lots of jobs teaching English abroad, so I might take a few courses in that. Then I could teach and travel. Who knows? I might meet a nice girl, too. That would be great.
Listen and practice.
Do you like to swim? Have you ever been in a swimming pool? How deep was it? 1 meter? 2 meters? Or maybe even 5 meters? Well, let me tell you about a very special place where you could go swimming, but I wouldn't recommend it because the water is 11 kilometers deep. Located in the Pacific Ocean, right beside Japan, is something called the Mariana Trench. It is like a deep valley in the ocean. Deep down, it is very dark and cold. Scary, right? When you are swimming, do you ever feel the pressure in your ears? This is caused by the weight of the water. Imagine how your ears would feel with 11 kilometers of water on top of you. Underneath all of that water, there are still creatures living there. They must be really strange. Maybe, to some people, the Mariana Trench sounds like a fun place to go swimming, but not to me. I'd choose a nice, warm beach any day.
Listen and practice.
Laura lives in a big city. If she lived in the country, she would have a dog. Laura shares an apartment with 3 other women, but if it were possible, she would live on her own. If she lived in the country, she would buy a small house and she would grow her own flowers and vegetables. In the city, she travels by subway and goes shopping in big department stores, but she doesn't like this at all. If she were in the country, she would ride her bike and she would buy things in small stores. She loves walking and often goes for a walk in the city, but the streets are noisy. In the country, she would walk across the fields with her dog.
Listen and practice.
My daughter has been trying to find a job for months. She finished college in June, and since then she has had 1 or 2 part-time jobs. She has been working in a cafe for the last 2 weeks. She wants to work in publishing. She has written hundreds of letters of application, and she has had a few interviews, but no job offers yet.
Listen and practice.
We have been living in our new house for several months. Since we moved in, we have been very busy. Everyone has helped to get the house ready. So far, we have decorated the living room and the kitchen. Soon after we arrived, the central heating broke down, so we had to spend a lot of money to repair it. We like gardening very much, but we haven't had time to do anything to the yard yet. And it has been raining a lot recently, so we'll just wait until the weather gets better.
Listen and practice.
I've been learning Spanish for the past 3 years. My teacher is very good, and I like her very much. I have been to Peru 3 times. I went there last year with my family, and we stayed in Lima. I enjoyed it a lot, but there were too many people.
Listen and practice.
I have 2 eyes. They let me see everything around me. Can everyone see with their eyes? No, some people cannot see at all. They are blind. Other people cannot see well with their eyes. They wear glasses to help them see better. Sometimes it's hard to see when the sun is shining very bright, so people wear sunglasses to help them see. Take care of your eyes. They are very important.
Listen and practice.
Our body is covered with skin. It's the largest human organ. It is a very important part of us. It covers and protects everything inside our body. That's why we need to take good care of our skin. Nature helps us too. In our lifetime, our skin will replace itself almost 1,000 times. Still, take care of your skin. How? Eat healthy food, drink more water, and don't stay in the strong sun too long.
Listen and practice.
I love swimming. When I go swimming, I always go with a friend. Why? Swimming can be dangerous. Once, I was swimming in the sea, and I was almost pulled away by the big waves. That was scary. I like to go to the beach, but I only go swimming if there is a lifeguard. Don't go too far out in the water. Stay close so the lifeguard can see you. Swimming is fun, but always be careful. Swim safely.
Listen and practice.
Some people think pets are just fun to play with, but pets can really help us in a lot of different ways. First, pets are great because they can get us to exercise more. By walking or running around with a dog every day, well, we're moving and using our muscles. It helps us stay healthy. Second, pets help us relax just by being with us and keeping us company. For example, playing with our cat can help us forget our problems. This is good because when we think too much about problems, we might get stressed out, and this is bad for our health. Third, by giving a pet to an elderly person, we can make that person feel happier. That's because elderly people feel lonely sometimes, and pets can be their friends. Last but not least, having pets allows us to learn about animals firsthand, not just from books or TV. Playing with them and taking care of them properly make it easier to understand them. This is useful because we have to learn about animals at school too.
Listen and practice.
My name's Dahlia, and I was born in 1971 in Los Angeles. But my family moved to San Francisco when I was 5 years old. I started school in San Francisco. That was in 1976. Then I stayed in San Francisco until I went to college. I went to college in New York because it's such a cool city. I finished my degree in 1993. After that, I lived in different cities around the world for a few years. I got my first job in 1996. I worked for a bank in New York. I didn't like that job very much, but I met my husband at the bank. We got married in 2004. Now we live in New Jersey, and we're very happy. We had our first child, our daughter, in 2008. She's called Bethany, and she's very beautiful.
Listen and practice.
My name's Arno. I was born in the small town of Monville in Canada in 1971. My family moved to the U.S. when I was 3 years old. That was in 1974. I started school in 1975. It was a great school. I loved English and drama. I started college in 1989, and I studied drama. I acted in my first film in 1991. It was a thriller. In 1993, I visited lots of different countries. I backpacked to lots of amazing places. I moved to the UK in 1995 to teach drama. I really enjoy teaching my students and running our small theater.
Listen and practice.
One day, Simon's mother asks him what he wants to do when he grows up. "Save the world," he says. His mother smiles and says, "I'm glad to hear that. But can you save your world first?" "What?" asks Simon. "Clean up your room. Can you do that?" says the mother. "Yes, I can," says Simon.
Listen and practice.
There once was a place where everyone wanted money, but no one liked to work. Slowly, farmers stopped growing things too. Soon, there was very little food. People had lots of money, but there was almost no food to buy. Everyone was going hungry. They asked each other, "Why has money become worthless? What should we do? We are hungry, and we really need to eat." One man said, "I have gold, but I can't eat gold." "That's right. We have gold and we have money, but we cannot eat these things. We need food." "What shall we do?" said another. An old man stood up and said, "Go back to the land. We must never forget where our food comes from. It comes from the earth and from all the hard work of farmers." The people saw how wrong it was to think that money is the most important thing.
Listen and practice.
When it's time to sleep, you go to bed and lie down. Soon you fall asleep. But not all animals are like that. Horses, for example, can stand while they sleep. Isn't that strange? How do they do that? It's all in the horse's knees. A horse can lock its knees so it does not fall down. Isn't that amazing? Yes, horses can sleep standing up without falling over.
Listen and practice.
When we are too hot, we can use a fan to cool down. Most importantly, our body has a natural way of staying cool. When we feel hot, we sweat. How can a dog cool down on a hot day? A dog can jump in the water. A dog can sit under a tree. What else does a dog do? A dog can pant, which is a short and quick breath to let heat out through its tongue. Why do they do this? Dogs cannot sweat.
Listen and practice.
Long ago, there was a king who had a beautiful robe, but the robe was too long. An old man was asked to cut the robe to fit the king. The man was scared and nervous. He quickly measured the king. Then he cut the beautiful cloth. But to everyone's surprise, the cloth was now too short. The king was furious. He ordered the man to spend the rest of his life in jail. The lesson to learn is measure twice and cut once.
Listen and practice.
Billy does not like walking to school. Why? On his way to school, Billy has to walk past a big, angry dog. It really scares Billy. When Billy tells his mom about the dog, his mom has an idea. She goes with Billy to the house where the dog lives. They ask the man if he can keep his dog inside. The man agrees. Now Billy loves walking to school and he is not afraid anymore.
Listen and practice.
Water is a strange thing. You can put water in a glass and drink it, or use it to wash your hands. If you put water in a freezer, it will change. It will become ice. Ice is cold and hard, but it is still water. Isn't that amazing? Put water in a pot and heat it up. It changes again. It comes out as wet, hot air. It is now called steam. Water can take on many different shapes and forms, but it is always water.